So I want to start, first of all, by welcome all of you and thank you for joining us this morning. And also welcome those that watch this online from the link on the website. I'm pleasantly surprised with how many do that. We get quite a following that way. It's also nice, and I invite all of you to share in this discussion, because by us getting together, sharing our experience, each of us takes a little piece away, a piece of knowledge away, and we apply that to our work going forward. So I thank all of you for doing that. I also want to offer that if any of you have an idea of further topics you would like to have us discuss during these sessions, please get in touch with me. I'm in the process of trying to put together a list for things to review and do next year. So we will progress that way. We will not have a meeting in December. We've looked at that, and with all the stuff going on in December, we decided, yeah, one more thing just isn't worth it. So with that, this is one where I'm going to do mostly listening. I have no experience in this topic at all. And at this point, I don't think I've even got an interest in this topic. It's kind of like Ken said, I've had a lot of jobs. I don't want another one. So I turn and enjoy it. And I make my products available to friends and family, and that's about the extent of what I do in terms of selling. I can say I have sold one item in my life, so technically I guess I do sell, but that's about the extent of what I know and what I can contribute to this topic. But several of you do have quite a bit of experience. So Larry, you want to start and tell us about what you've done and what your experience has been like?
Okay. Well, I'm with you. I don't want to make this a job. The only reason I sell is because I have, well, I enjoy the turning, so I do a lot of it, and you got to do something with the pieces. So I went out to a gallery in Tlaquepaque and just showed them some pictures in Sedona, and uh, and when I showed them the pictures, they were interested, so they asked me to email them bigger pictures, which I did. And they took about 10 pieces right off the bat, or 15 pieces. I can't remember. That was about 4 years ago. And uh, they started selling. And so I've been in that gallery now for about 4 years. And at this point, I don't sell a lot there. I sell about maybe an average of 2 to 3 pieces a month, something like that. But you don't, you get fit, or I do anyhow. This particular gallery gives 45% of what they sell. So you kind of got to jack your prices up on your pieces, uh, if you want to make any money. And I'm not really in it to make money. I'm just in it to enjoy it, and then I sell the pieces just to buy more wood, more sandpaper, and more finish, and uh, so and then obviously I sell at your Prescott area Woodturners sales, the different sales that you have. Normally I go to those, uh, and usually you do fairly well at those. Uh, Other than that, sell a few pieces out of the house just from people coming over and seeing them, or seeing them online. I post them online, but I don't sell them online. But sometimes I have somebody message me from one of my posts, ask me if I sell those pieces, and I'll say yes. If you're interested, just let me know which one and I'll give you a price. And I've sold, I don't know, maybe 10 12 pieces like that over the last 4 or 5 years. That's when I started about 5 or 6 years ago. Uh, so anyway, that's about the extent of my sales information.
Hey Larry, this is Dave. What format do you use online?
All I do, I've just put my pictures on Instagram, and then they they get shared to Facebook, and then just people see them on there. Uh, you get a lot of people that'll start following you, is what I've noticed. When you put them on there, and then people see them on there, they just send you a message, say, are those for sale? And I say yes. I'm not really trying to sell them online.
Yeah,
Just posting them for, just
it's
just
there.
to post them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I once tried to sell a few pieces on Etsy. I didn't really like it, so I just don't do it anymore. So I haven't done anything online.
What was it about Etsy that you didn't like?
Uh, I didn't really get any. Uh, I didn't get any sales off of it for one,
Oh, that'd be
and
amazing thing, yeah.
yeah, I didn't see much interest. And there was a lot of people on there, got a lot of pieces on there for not very much money,
Mm.
and I don't like to let mine go cheap, so I put a pretty good price on mine. I didn't have any interest on it, so
I've heard that before about Etsy. A lot of competition, low prices, everybody lowballing everybody.
yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, I'm not doing it to make money. I'm just doing it to get rid of the pieces that I'm turning,
Mm.
because I just don't have room to hang on to them. And I give a few away, but you know, I seem to sell enough to keep me in where it doesn't really cost me a lot for my hobby that I enjoy. So
Perfect.
now
Larry,
you
when
sell
you,
quite a bit, don't you, Dan? Or
uh, Larry, I was going to ask you a question. When you have your pieces in the shops, that's like a consignment, is that right?
yes.
Okay.
So I just take my pieces. She'll call me every once in a while from the gallery and say, "You have anything?" And she'll sometimes say, "Oh, I really like those pistachio pieces," or "I really like that aspen," or "I like a certain thing. Do you have any of that turned right now?" And she'll say, "I'm really looking for like a smaller pieces right now," or she'll say, "Do you have anything tall?" I mean, she just specifies sometimes, and I'll tell her, I say, "Well, I got, 15 pieces or something sitting here at the house. How about if I just bring them all out? You pick what you want." And then she looks them over and says, "Oh, I want to put this one in. I want to put that one in." And we'll agree on a price. And then she takes them and she does all the rest. So if they need to be shipped, they get a lot of traffic from all over the place in Sedona, and Tlaquepaque is a pretty big place. Got like, I don't know, 25, 30 galleries, something like that in there. And so they get a lot of traffic. And if something needs to be shipped, that's on them. They do all that. I just get 55% of whatever I tell her to sell it for when it sells.
So, another question. I've never sold anything at all, only through uh, farmers market or the stocking stuffers. Anyway, the question is, if you have something in a shop, let's hypothetically say you have it for sale $600, and somebody wants to pay less. They wanted, like Dave said, lowball. Um, does the shop owner call you and say, the buyer wants to pay $350 for it. And what do you do in those cases?
Okay, and on that particular gallery, I've never had her call me in 4 years,
Oh,
4 or 5 years, whatever it is I've been in there. I can't remember for sure. I think I started there in 2018. Uh, because I started turning in 2017, and it was about a year later. I had a bunch of stuff laying around and was trying to figure out what to do with it. So in all that time, I've never had her call me and say somebody wants to pay less. As far as I know, if they were gonna sell it for less, they take it off of their end. I haven't, uh, she's never said that I had to discount anything. So as far as I know, it just sells for that price and that's it.
okay. Okay. Is that shop in Sedona?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got a little, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dean.
The big question is, how do you put your price on it?
That was my most difficult part of the whole selling thing. And I started out when I went to her gallery. I mean, uh, she gets 45% of what I sell, so she's going to want to get the best price she can get for it. I kind of deferred to her for a long time. I said, "What do you think this will sell for? What do you think what do you think I should put on this?" And once in a while, I would say, "Oh no, I can't sell it for that." I mean, this piece of wood cost me $100, or like those Norfolk Island pine pieces that are 11 inches in diameter and maybe 5 or 6 inches tall. That's $100 piece of wood because you can't find it anywhere except online, and there's only one or two places where you can get that that I've found so far. And so I would say I paid $100 for that piece of wood, and you want to sell it for $400. That means I'm going to get $220 for it. That means I'm getting $120 in my pocket. That's just not going to work. And she would say, "Oh, well, then what do you want?" And I would say, "Man, how about 600?" And she'd say, 600 it is. So it's kind of, we kind of negotiate back and forth. We've been working together long enough now that we pretty much, know what it'll sell for. But she helps me a lot with that. And then some of the pricing that I do when we go to our shows, like the one we're going to go to Saturday, I will take what I think she would sell it for at the gallery and figure out what I would make. And then I try to go about halfway in between so that I make a little bit more by selling it at that show or that sale than I would at the gallery, but the price is actually less than what it would go for at the gallery. So I kind of do it that way when I go there.
When you do your own show like that, do you typically come out ahead?
You mean, do I make more than I would at the gallery if I
Do you
go to?
let's start by the simple one. Do you cover your expenses?
Oh yeah. And well, I guess it depends on what you call expenses. If you call what you paid to put your shop up and buy your lathe and all your equipment and your wood and your sandpaper and everything else, I don't think
No.
maybe 20 years from now I might break even. In other words, but the thing is I started doing it and I enjoy it, and I don't want to make money. I just want to recoup enough money where I can keep doing it and it doesn't cost me money. So that's pretty much what I make a little bit, but when you figure out what you spend for equipment and in a shop and all that, you're not making any money. So the only thing is you're gonna turn anyway, so why not sell it? You know, so
So you make enough to cover your entrance fee and that sort of
oh,
thing.
you mean that kind of stuff at the sale itself?
Yes,
Oh yeah. I think at the last uh armory sale, I think I sold about $1,300 worth of stuff at that sale, 13 or 1400. And usually at the ones on the plaza, somewhere around $1,000 for the stuff I sell. So that's been my average so far. So, and I think everybody down there does pretty well when they go to those sales. So,
gotcha. Any other questions for Larry?
Good morning to Spence and Rick. Dave, you were saying something there a minute ago, but you were muted. So I was
Oh,
curious
yeah.
what you were saying.
I was just telling Larry he got some of my money at that last show.
oh, did I?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's so what'd you do? Take it so you could figure out how I did it?
No, I'm not exactly sure I bought from you, but I seem to remember. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. So you sell it at a gallery, don't you?
No, I haven't
Oh,
sold anything.
oh, okay. For some reason I was thinking you sold at a gallery.
Maybe
No,
the other David.
all kind of
Um,
galleries call me
different
once a
Dave,
week.
huh?
Yeah, they
Yes.
call me once a week wanting my stuff, but you know,
So there's quite a few galleries in Prescott. I looked into a couple of them. I wasn't the only one that I thought I would be able to get a good price at wouldn't take my stuff because I didn't live in Prescott, and they would only take local stuff. I said, well, I'm pretty local. I'm in Cotton, I'm just outside of Cottonwood. Well, that's not local enough. It has to be Prescott. So I said,
wow.
okay. So,
In
but
the
there's quite a few galleries there. I think 8 or 10 of them at least, right down around Whiskey Row and around the plaza area.
I was in one of them. I was in the Arts Prescott. That's a co-op gallery. They only only take 17%, but you pay a small monthly fee, and you have to work a couple of hours a month. I don't have my stuff in there anymore. It just wasn't worth it to me. Some of the folks in the gallery said that my work was a little too high end to be there. I also had some pieces in the gallery in Jerome, but I never sold anything there. So I just sell at shows now. I do about 5 shows a year. And I'm just like Larry. I don't do it for a living. I do it so I can go buy a bunch of nice wood and, like you say, keep myself in sandpaper and finishes. I've got a show this weekend at Fountain Hills, which is a good show. And you ask about whether we can cover your expenses. And I've had 2 shows, two shows where I'll take it back. One show where I didn't cover expenses, 2 shows where I did okay, but it wasn't great. But I've had shows like 2 back. I did almost $8,000 there. And in Fountain Hills, I do somewhere between around $5,000 there. But my pieces that I sell at those shows are more high end. And I've only done the wigwam once, so it's the first time I could get into that one, and I'm into that one again next year. That's a good one too. That's where I sold my first piece over $1,000, and so that was a really good show. My goal is to sell about between 8 and 12 pieces. My average price is about his average sale is about over $550. So if I sell 12 pieces, I did really good. And pricing was, like Larry also said, was a real problem. How do you know what to price, how to price your work? There's people that say there's a formula. You take the cost of your materials times 2.2 and then, or 2.8, whatever it is, and then add how much per hour you want to make. Well, on some pieces that might be okay. On others, it makes no sense. You lose money on them. And the other thing that I think that formula leaves out is, what is the aesthetic or artistic value of a piece of work? I can sell that at a craft show for $40, but I can sell this at an art show for $1,500. So there's more material. This is obviously more expensive wood. There's more time in this, but this is actually more profitable than the $40 piece. So, and how I arrived at the prices is that I talked to other artists at the shows, and they told me your work's probably not priced high enough. So if you're selling, increase your price 25% for the next show. If you continue to sell, keep raising it 25% till you hit a ceiling. And I'm about there. A bowl like this, not this particular one, but a bowl this size, done with more exotic woods and what have you. I'm getting $650 for them now. Seems insane to me, to be perfectly honest, but people will pay that. So I'll keep doing it, at least until it becomes a job. And then I quit. But when I first started doing this, I had to ask myself the questions: why do I want to sell it? Well, I didn't, but my wife said we got to get rid of some of this crap. So she got us into a little craft show down in Phoenix area, sponsored by a church or something. And I told her I was not going to the show, not going to do it. If she wanted to sell the stuff, take it over there. But I wasn't going to do it. I helped her set it up, and then I left. Well, then she calls me and says, you got to get over here because the guy wants to pay you $100 for a bowl, but he wants you to sign it. Okay, I'll be right there. So that changed my mind. But that was the first question: is why do I want to sell this stuff? And then it became the real why, because I want to buy more wood. I want to keep myself in the nice tools and the equipment I need to do it, because I love doing it, and I'm not going to stop doing it yet. So I want to make my hobby self-sustaining. And then it becomes a question of who do you sell it to? I've actually sold pieces at discounts to friends and family. My daughter-in-law's bought 3 pieces from me, and she insists on paying full price because she gives them to friends or family as gifts. But again, it's galleries. I tried galleries, didn't give it that much of a try, but I really wasn't successful there and wasn't really happy in it. So the shows worked best for me, but not craft shows. I have to do art shows because my work is too expensive for craft shows. I had a guy come up to my booth at the last craft show I did, and he told his wife, here it is, this is a piece I was talking about. He runs up to the booth, picks up this bowl and holds it up, shows it to his wife, and says, this is the one. He looks at the price and he says, $450. Are you effing kidding? So I pulled out of craft shows and just do art shows. And then the galleries, again, they're consignment galleries. There are a few galleries that you can sell wholesale to. So you don't have to put it in on consignment. They'll buy it from you. Not many of those around, and they're pretty particular on what they buy. And then there's the consignment galleries that Larry mentioned. Most of them are 50%. There's a few that only take 45, and there's a couple. I think there's a couple in Sedona that or a 60-40, they'll take 40%. But, and then there's selling online. I have a website, and I have a website for one reason only, so that when someone says, do you have a website? I can say yes. Everything I have is on there. I've got the gallery page where I've got a bunch of this stuff, older stuff that I used to make. But I've sold one piece in 4 years off of the website that someone had never seen in person. I've had people look at the piece at the show and then buy it online. But I just do the website so I can say, yes, I have a website. And with the website, I have to make sure that as soon as I sell a piece, I go on and edit my website and take that piece off, or else mark it as sold. I had an instance in Cave Creek where a lady looked at a piece, really liked it, but she didn't buy it. Someone else came by a little later and bought it, and then she went home and went online and ordered it. Well, obviously, I can't make one exactly like that, so I had to call her and say, hey, I'll make one as close to it as I can, and I'll send it to you. So she was happy with that. I sent it to her. She had to ship it to Michigan, but it was okay. In the end, I just do it to support my hobby, not to make a living. At the art shows, there are a lot of people that do it for a living. Not wood turning, but whatever their art is, they do it for a living. And there's some interesting people that you meet that do this for a living. I met a lady in Colorado that lives in her camper van, and she was talking about going and bathing in the river so that she didn't have to go pay for a hotel room or something to take a shower. So I'm not going to do that.
But think of the money you could save.
Yeah, no.
If you were doing this for a living, that would be about what you would be living in.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a few people. There's a Native American artist that's a sculptor, and she does just the most fantastic work. And she does it for a living, but her pieces are $15,000 or $20,000. So she sells 8 or 10 pieces a year. She's made a pretty decent living. But there's not many people that can do that, at least not at the shows that I go to.
David, do the shows that you go to down here on the square that we've been going to for MAG, they're very strict that we have a tax, our taxes are correct and we're charging taxes. Do you run into that for the shows that you have to have a TPC or something like that? Or
Almost
TPL?
all of them. Yes, I do. And a few of them, like Fountain Hills and a couple of others, require that you have a license for a business license to do business in the city. It's $50, but a year. But you do have to have a license in a lot of places. And some places even will collect the sales tax before you even leave the show. But I pay my sales taxes. I submit it to the state after a show.
Do you include the price of the tax in your work, or do you add that on at the point of sale?
No, I add it on at point of sale. I use Square as a and you put a tax rate in there. You just find out what the tax rate is for the city and put it in there. And Prescott, by the way, has one of the highest tax rates around.
Now, do you have to have like an LLC or something like that to get tax licenses and an EIN number and all that?
I think so. I had a couple of businesses before, so I just kept that information. State said just keep that information. Just do your business now as a DBA. So I had a printing copying business down in Phoenix, and just kept the name of that and just doing business as DGK Design.
Yeah, just a real quick. EINs are available for free. through the IRS.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of companies that are paying for an EIN. Anybody can get it. You don't need an LLC and you don't need anything other than your name, and your name is a business. You can have anything set up in any kind of a structure and get an EIN.
Well, I think you can use your social security number instead of a EIN, but I think that'd be crazy to do that because you're giving that information out.
Yeah, I would never do that.
No.
It's get the EIN, and that way it's the IRS that's involved. And if anything happened, you don't have to deal with Social Security.
Well, isn't there two different systems here? The IRS, any money you make, and then the taxes for this county and the state and the city. I had one when I thought I was going to be doing this kind of stuff, and I sent my check in electronically for $50, I think, and I evidently put the wrong check number on, and so the state emailed me and said your check bounced. You owe us $50 for it bouncing. So I went for about 3 weeks trying to get them to say what number did I use. I'm sorry, and the check was good and all that, and they said, well, we have it, well, we can't tell you. And so I paid the $50 penalty, and that was so that the county and the city and the state that I would sell in would get their share and the likes. So I wound up just letting it pause, and it's sitting there under my name. But that's one of the reasons I quit trying to sell it. It just wasn't worth the pain to go through this darn government to try to do it right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
There is-
again,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the reason I asked about that was my wife and I just started a little business last week. As a matter of fact, she makes a lot of craft stuff, keychains. She does sublimation printing, and she has a Cricut, and she makes T-shirts, all kinds of stuff. And so I thought I'd jump on her back, and if there was something I thought I could sell, I'd put it out there. But yeah, we're just going through all the EIN, TPC, and all that stuff right now. So that's why.
I think, and I'm not sure about this, aren't you allowed as a hobby to make a certain amount of money without so much a year without reporting it to IRS?
Well, it's the IRS.
Somewhere.
As I understand it, the IRS is one issue, but the counties and cities want their tax too. And that's where I got into a frustrated situation.
Well, so at the gallery, I don't get the gallery doesn't 1099 me. They don't. I mean, I don't claim anything that I sell. I don't sell enough to where even if I got audited, I could show them where I was in the hole because of my building and my, equipment.
Wait a minute, I got the IRS right here, and you're being reported.
That's okay. I think I'm pretty sure that you're allowed to make a certain amount of money. If you're calling it a hobby, it can be a hobby up to a certain amount of money without reporting it.
Yeah, just don't deposit more than $600 in your account at any one time.
I know that gets sent to them every time. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Larry, they changed the laws for 2023. For 2022, the threshold was $20,000. It's dropped to $600 for 2023 going forward. And they're going after the IRS, and their 84,000 agents that they hired are going after small businesses that fail to issue 1099s, and companies or independent people that fail to declare that as income. So I know I've advised all my clients, be careful, cover your rear end and do it right.
Yeah, the only thing I could say about that would be, well, I don't know what happens if it's after the fact, but if I say I didn't report it because I'm in the hole, I didn't actually make any money. I don't know if you have to actually fill out the paperwork and write off the shop or write off the equipment or write off all the wood that you buy and sandpaper and all that. and prove on ahead of time, or if in the situation you just said, hey, I didn't make any money, I mean, here's why.
Yeah,
So
well,
I haven't really
hopefully,
worried about it.
hopefully you're not in a position where you have to prove that you didn't make any money, because from the IRS's perspective, they look at it as your sales or what you're taxed on until you prove expenses against those sales to negate the income. So they're
Yeah.
not your friend, basically.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've been audited a couple times in the past, and I was always okay, but yeah, I know they come with both barrels.
Yeah, and it's one of the only areas where you're guilty till proven innocent.
Yeah.
Jay, would you know, because I ran across this last night just by accident from the site that I was on, would filing the IRS a Schedule C along with your taxes cover
If your Schedule C is the business that you're declaring, there's a comment made earlier, David, I think you made a comment about piggybacking on your wife's business. And I don't want to railroad this into tax advice, but be careful about that, because if you're a completely different kind of business, then you might have problems. If you're still in the same kind of business as your wife is in with her cricket machine, then you're probably okay to go. But
Yeah, it's all crafts,
yeah,
it's all
Yeah.
crafts.
that? Did
Yeah,
you say
but yeah,
craft or craft?
but
Crafts.
Dean, yeah,
Both.
both.
On my
Dean,
side.
Dean, if you want to talk about this offline, give me a call.
That's fine.
Yeah, Jay, I might want to talk to you sometime too. Starting a new business is a little scary.
I have a
No
question
problem.
for David Kohler. How do you find out about all the craft fairs and art shows? What's your
question.
source of information?
There's organizations that do this. The one that's local is a lady in Litchfield Park. Her name is Candy Vermillion, and her business is Vermillion Promotions, and she does Cave Creek, Carefree, Tubac, Wigwam, Litchfield Park, and a bunch of others. Some of the cities like Fountain Hills, they do it themselves. And then there's another one called Howard Allen Promotions, or Howard Allen something or other. They mostly do shows back east. I've only done one with them, and that was in Colorado. But I'm not going to do that again. I'll just stick to Arizona because I don't want it to be a job. I take it back. I did one in Houston, but that was so I could also go back there for a family reunion. And then if you just Google art show promotions or something like that online, you'll find them. There's another one. There's a couple others I get emails from, but like I say, I just do the local ones. But Vermillion Promotions is the one to look at locally. Actually, I think she's doing the Prescott show now, or she was anyway, for Mountain Artists Guild.
Cool.
And as far as taxes, I report everything, and I pay my sales taxes because I've been audited before, and I'm not going through that again. And that wasn't all my fault, though. I did some work for the government through another business I had, and they underreported my income, and I paid my taxes off of what they told me they paid me, and then found out that they had underreported that, and the IRS came in and audited me and wanted to know where's the money for the rest of this. It wasn't fun, but we got through it. One other, I've made a list of the things that I had to ask myself before I started selling it. That was, what do you want to sell? And obvious for most of us is you want to sell your hobby work. And again, that brings to up, where do you want to sell it? Craft shows or art shows? Craft shows are easy to find. Art shows are you have to hunt a little bit, but there's plenty of them out there. And usually the difference is the craft show, all you have to do is rent a booth, really. Art shows, you usually have to go through a jury process where you submit pictures of your work, a description of your work, and then they have a panel that goes through and looks at them and decides whether you're worthy to get in there or not. And when I did the show in Colorado, all of them require a booth photo too. So I sent pictures of my work and pictures of my booth. Well, they contacted me and said, "Hey, we love your work. We hate your booth. So you need to change the booth." So they suggested I do it in what they call a gallery style. So I just have some shelving units I built myself, and I don't use tables anymore because that particular one would not allow tables. It had to be used or a gallery style. Another little something I hadn't known before. The entry fees, I think two back, I have a 10 by 20 booth there, and the booth fee there is $1,100. I have to sell something to cover those expenses, and it's a 5-day show, so I've got 5 days at a RV park down, or 6 days in an RV park down there, $60 a day. So yeah, I have to do a bit to cover my expenses there. But my wife and I also like doing the shows, so that's part of it too.
Yeah, the shows are kind of fun because you have so much interaction with different people. Just like the one we're going to do on at the Armory this weekend. You know, every time I go to one of those, it's just kind of fun for people to come and look at your stuff and say, "Oh, wow, that's cool," you know, and then spend a lot of money to buy it, you know, and that's just kind of a feather in your cap. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's kind of neat.
I call it stroking my ego. So
Yeah,
when
you
they
could
say,
say
"Oh, your
that."
work's beautiful," yeah, you know, that does feel good. It feels
Oh,
even
yeah.
better when they say, "I love your work. Here's my credit card."
Exactly. Yeah, when they want to spend, you know, I take a piece to the gallery and I put usually anywhere from 450 to 1,200 bucks in most of my pieces. And somebody, you know, you get the check in the mail and it shows that you just sold a $1,200 piece, and you think, wow, somebody spent 1,200 bucks for, you know, it's just kind of neat, you know. And I can imagine what it'd be like to sell one for 4,000 or 5,000.
I have a
So,
piece that's $4,200, and I thought of a lady really wanted it. When she turned and looked at her husband, he shook his head. And then the guy called me 2 days later and offered me $2,500 for it.
well,
I took that
that's
as
the
an
piece.
insult.
That's
Yeah.
the piece you had it, you demoed, isn't it? Or had it to demo?
Right, that
Yeah,
open segment tall. Yeah.
I figured that was probably the piece. Yeah. And
Well, he
didn't you
offered
have
20.
that at the library too? Didn't you put that one at the library, or was that a
No,
different one you had there?
that was a different one. The one I'm talking about is 32 inches tall
Yeah, I remember it at
at the show.
the
Yeah.
demo. Yeah.
At the demo, correct.
Yeah, we were all afraid it was going to fall off the table at the demo. So Dean challenged us our class a couple of weeks ago. We had some pieces on our table, and he asked me, he says, "How much would you sell that piece for?" And I was like, "I have no idea, 25 bucks maybe." And at the end of the class, he said, "That's a $65, $70 piece." And I was like, oh, I was on cloud 9 after that, you know, but I tried to sell it to him. He wouldn't buy it.
I haven't sold at many. I've sold down the square and through club stuff, and I was for 3 years over at Talking Rock at a show, which was really cool because they set a table up. They had a nice tablecloth for me. It was in a golf course resort community. and people drinking wine, which is good for any kind of sales. And it cost $10 a table. And I sold some pieces and so forth. A couple people said, I don't know if David or Larry, it was you or not, you're not charging enough. And so the next year I charge more, and I still take that piece home. The ones I have a different appreciation though for those that sell at those shows. I used to walk around and say, oh, well, I have a wood lathe at home, I can do that stuff. And they'd say, oh yeah, okay. And but I kind of got frustrated with the people who would come say, oh, my great uncle turns that kind of stuff all the time. Yeah, well, you want to buy a piece and take it home to him? But the one that really got to me was a lady that walked by, and she's got her big glass of red wine, and she says, I have a whole cabinet full of that crap. And that kind of hurt my ego a little bit. And I thought, well, fine. You want to have some more? You know, but
Well, I was at the
It's all
Wigwam show last February, and a lady came up and said, oh, you're back. I bought one of your pieces a few years ago. Oh, great. And I have a poster that has a picture of a lot of the pieces I've made in the past. And she looked at it and she said, oh, I have this one too. And she walked up and pointed to it. And I said, really? Where'd you get that? She said, well, I hate to tell you this, but I went to Goodwill and it was on the shelf there for $2. And then I looked at it and it had your name on the bottom of it.
Wow.
So, apparently somebody bought it from me. Probably somebody passed on and their relatives had no use for it, so they donated it to Goodwill. So she paid me $350 for one piece, and then she got another one for $2. So that kind of hurt my ego too.
Gee whiz.
Well, that shouldn't hurt too bad if she paid $350 for the one piece. She must
Yeah.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Okay, who else has something they'd like to share? By
I
the
was
way,
gonna say one thing that Dave brought up. I looked at the Jerome co-op, and I didn't even consider it because, for one, they want you to spend 3-4 days, I can't remember, a month up there working. You know, I could be here turning, and so yeah, I think they only got 20 or 25%. I can't remember what they got, but you know, if you've got somebody else in there working that has their stuff in there, they're going to be trying to push their stuff. They're not going to be trying to push your stuff unless somebody just comes in and wants your stuff. But I didn't like the idea of you had to set up your own. You had to have your own, what I would call it, booth set up. You had to do all that yourself. By the time you set up a booth, by the time you pay 25%, and then you go up there and work 3 or 4 or 5 days a month, whatever it was they wanted to, I'd rather just take it to the gallery where I don't have to do anything. I just hand it to them and they take 45%. So
Yep,
I'm
yeah.
over here turning while I mean, instead of being up there selling, I'm over here turning other pieces. So
The
turned
time I
into a
had to
job.
spend it, yeah, the time I had to spend there was not worth the investment. I mean, that was too much time, even though it was only 12 hours a month. I think that was 12 hours I could have been doing something else. And if you can't make that, if you can't do that and you can't get somebody to swap with you, you have to pay somebody to take your slot there. So it just wasn't worth it for me, even though I thought it would be at first, but I should have known when I did the interview with them. They questioned me about my pricing and whether that was maybe a little bit too high. And then, like I said, I had several of them tell me later that my work upgraded the gallery. It's not really what I wanted to hear. I mean, I appreciate it, but I'd rather be where I have, I'm in with people that have comparable work.
Sure.
So,
Also, the what was I gonna say? I don't, I don't remember what I was gonna say now, but it was, it just wasn't worth it to me when I went over there, looked at the Jerome setup, and also, oh, I know what I was gonna say. The pieces in there were $65, $75, $100. I think about the biggest piece I saw in there was $180 or something. And, you know, as far as turnings went, and I didn't see any quality there, and I didn't just see, I mean, I just couldn't see myself being in there.
Well, that happened to me at the gallery. They said, well, maybe you need to put some less expensive pieces in there. And I thought, well, that's not really what I want to do. And so I made some just basic segmented bowls and put them in there at like $175. And then I just realized that's not what I want to do. I'm not in a business. I'm not certainly not in the business of making cheaper stuff just so that I can sell it. I want to do it's the design and the creation process that interests me, and the physical turning work. So I'm not doing it. I'm not going to make pieces just to sell.
I don't have any data on this, but I believe, Larry, where you're at and selling, people will buy something and they'll take it back to another state and be asked, where'd you get that? Well, I got it in Sedona, Arizona. Or Larry, I got this in Tubac. And people, there's an image there. And whereas you say, well, I bought it at an art store in Prescott. Prescott's everybody's hometown, but there's a couple of galleries down there. I like going down there. Janet and I go down there every couple of months and just walk through, and it's a good place to have fun. If you go into a couple of galleries, like where there's some sculpture stuff, that's beautiful stuff, but there's nobody in there buying,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's
when I was
The nice thing about doing the shows here in Arizona is the winter visitors. And there's a lot of people, especially in even Tubac and Fountain Hills and Cave Creek and those areas in Sedona, that have second homes. They have winter homes, and that's where I do a lot. And if somebody buys something over $350, I ship it at no charge. And not the last show, one of the shows we did, I think I sold 8 pieces, and 5 of them I shipped out to Philadelphia and Detroit and wherever else I went. So the winter visitors are a big part of the art show market down here.
You know, with
also the really good thing about Tlaquepaque is that it's world famous, and it gets a lot of traffic, and it gets a lot of traffic from not just in this area. It gets a lot of traffic from all over, and so, you know, I might not sell a lot of pieces there, you know, 2 or 3 a month, but you know, it's not like some of the galleries in Prescott. I don't know how much traffic they would get, because Tlaquepaque is just so well known, and Sedona is such a what would you call it, a place to travel to, so a good tourist spot. And the gallery that I'm in does all the shipping. I don't have to do any of the shipping, but they ship most of the pieces that they sell. Most of the pieces they sell that people don't take with them, they have them shipped.
you know, I commented with Mag the last couple of years. Are you going to have Anderson doors or Anderson windows selling there? Because that's really not, doesn't fit with a chocolate and fine art show. And I told, no, they're not going to be there, but steel door guys were right next to us. So the organization's just trying to pay, you know, make some money, and anything to fill the slot, which to me downgrades what the show is supposed to be about. and the like.
And that's another problem is a lot of the art shows tend to get too much craft in there because they're trying to fill booth spaces. About the first time I did, well, actually the first time I did the show at the square in Prescott, before I moved up here, Candy Vermillion contacted me and said that they were trying to upgrade the show back up to an art show, not so much a craft show. So I agreed to do it. And who's next to me? Somebody selling soap or something. I don't know what it was. And then I did the show July 4th in Flagstaff just to test it out. And there was a soap vendor on one side of me, and somebody had a bunch of crap looked like Dollar General on the other side of me. But amazingly, I did really well. I was totally shocked, and I was upset enough that when we set up the booth that I told the organizer of it that this looked like a craft show, not an art show, and I wasn't happy about it. But then, I did really well, so you never know. But by and large, if it's a craft show, you're not going to sell anything very expensive at all. Not worth it for me.
So Donna has a show that I'm not sure who sponsors it. I believe it's the high school field or something up there. Do you know
Yes.
anything about that? I've thought of it for the club, maybe as a place to showcase some stuff and get information about the club and our members outside of Prescott.
I've done it a couple of times. I don't do it anymore because it just has not been productive. It's
Really?
it's way out at the high school on the baseball field, and it's not near downtown. You don't get the traffic that you would get at like at Tlaquepaque. The last time I was there, I sold one piece, and it's kind of funny. It was a piece I'd had for about a year and a half. I absolutely hated it. I had it down to $350 and couldn't sell it. So just for the heck of it, I marked it $925, and that's the only piece I sold. So who knows? But it's just not worth it. You don't get the number of people, and you don't get the right demographic out there. So I don't do it anymore.
I had a
On
buddy.
that note, if this is Ken, and again, I apologize, my camera is not working on my computer today. But on that note, David, I don't want to point the fingers. I appreciate knowing there's a difference between an art show and a craft show. And for everybody knows that this Saturday, we're having a sale at the Armory. And by that definition, we have a craft sale every time. And most of us in the club don't go to galleries, don't go to art shows. Is it worth Dean's time to go to the effort to put together the craft show for the club's benefit? I know he has to do a lot of the background stuff, and of the people online right now, Kathy and I are doing sales this Saturday. Larry and his wife, Jenny, are doing sales. Nobody else on this group is selling. We're talking about a different level than David is talking about. And Larry is kind of in both worlds. I just kind of like to have some people weigh in. Is it even worth the club's time to sponsor sales like this?
Well, for myself, I just for these sales, just because I get tired of doing the same old thing all the time, I turn some smaller stuff and I turn some little crafty items along with. I always take some expensive pieces and some, pieces in $100 range, 75 to $100 range, something in there that are more crafty. Just you know, they usually sell a lot of stuff in that area. But I always, it was so far, every time I've gone to one of those shows, I've sold at least 2 or 3 pieces that were in the $300 range or $400 range. So, uh, you know, for me, myself, it's worth it to go because it doesn't cost that much to get in it. And it's kind of fun. You know, for me, it's enjoyable. People coming by all the time, looking at your stuff, you know, liking it and buying a few pieces. So, and, you know, I can't speak for the rest of you, but I don't know how everybody else does. I know they sell a lot of those little birdhouses and stuff like that, little crafty type things, uh, pins, different stuff like that. I do think it is more of a craft show than an art show, so I try to take both. And if I sell stuff, you know, I'm good, and if I don't, you know, I still enjoy the show. So for me, it's worth it. I don't know about everybody else.
Ken, you've kind of touched on something. I think most of you already know my opinion about the sales and so forth. That's a good question. That it kind of goes to a mission of what the club is about. Are we a club that is there for some sales? I know the May conference that we had earlier this year, we used to struggle to get 10 or 11 people that wanted to sell, and so forth. I don't get into those anymore. I just don't, I haven't done well. And I'm not saying my pieces are $1,200 pieces at all, but my time is worth more than to go out and I think the best I did was at the stocking stuffer last year when I sold about 8 rolling pins, and because I had some different colored woods in them and so forth. But as far as the other ones, I don't know. They give us exposure for the club and the community for and so forth, but I don't know. It seems to me that looking at, and I've been in the events thing for several years now at the club, the number of people that want to sell at these has been diminishing each year, and for what reason I don't know.
Well, I would think that one of the reasons to have the show would be to give members that want to sell but don't want to go do a show by themselves, we give them an opportunity to sell some of their work.
Right.
But if the interest is not there, then you certainly have to question whether it's worthwhile doing.
Yeah, and I have to say for me and some of the other people that sell there, you know, we think it's worth it, but we're not the ones doing all the work to set it up. So, you know, that's something that, you know, you know, we just have to, you know, we go and usually I go and try to help set up and all that. But, you know, as far as organizing all of it, Dean does all that. And so, you know, that is it worth it for him to have to do all that? It's, you know, hard for me to say because I don't know what all is involved in it, but I'm sure it's quite a bit.
Actually, it's no time at all. Doesn't take anybody can do it. Bob, did you hear that? Bob?
Sounds like you're recruiting.
So, it's just a philosophical issue, you know, and I think we're one of the few clubs that does offer this as a benefit to our members and so forth. And I don't know, it's probably a discussion for another time, and with other folks. But
Well, I enjoy the shows whether I sell anything or not. You know, I mean, I just kind of enjoy the camaraderie and you know, and the people coming by and conversation, different things like that. So I'm looking at it from a different point. I don't, you know, if I sell stuff, I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I want to sell stuff, but if I didn't, uh, I wouldn't be upset. Let's just put it that way.
Well, there's
I agree.
another,
So,
You do
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Another motivating factor that, as a result of the sales, the craft sales that we do, and that is exposure to the public. And we're educating the public of wood turning, but very frequently, somebody will come to the show and say, "I want to do that. You know, I want to learn how to turn wood," or maybe they've been turning and they didn't know that we had a wood turning club. So we've gained, and maybe some of you have come to a show. I know that's how I got started. I went to a show or craft show at the Square, and I said I want to get back into the wood turning, and then I went to one of the meetings, and there, the rest is history. Here I am. So we attract new members, you know, there's the bottom line.
yeah, I wanted to say that last year was my first year going to the show at the Armory. I didn't know what to expect. I went as a customer, and I was blown away by all of the presentation, the pieces everybody was selling. Everybody was so friendly. I was talking, you know, to different people and learning about that because I was still learning, still am, and it was quite an experience for me. I bought a few things and gave them as Christmas presents, and everybody I gave them to was really appreciative. And I think that shows a neat opportunity, like Mark said, for people to see what's going on. A lot of people don't know. I mean, I was getting a haircut and I was talking to my barber about wood turning, and he was like, "Well, what is that?" You know, people have never heard of it. You know, so I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and I hope to enjoy it again this year.
I'd like to reinforce what Mark said because I agree completely. If part of the club's purpose is to promote wood turning, how does the public know anything about it? How many of them are going to come to a monthly meeting? By doing these sales, we are exposing ourselves and what we can do with the lathe to the general public. And that is promoting wood turning as an art. So on that note, I would say it is worth it. On another note, Larry's touched on it. There's camaraderie that goes along with setting up and being a part of the club sale. So that helps the club as a whole, just so you get to know other people within the club. And we've heard from both David and Larry, it's personally rewarding to have somebody spend money on something you made. So at any level, any member in our club, regardless of skill level, if they're willing to participate in the sale, it gives them that feedback that what they're doing is something others do appreciate. So on those notes, it is, in my mind, a worthwhile function of the club. But as Dean's pointed out too, it's been, the number of sellers has been declining. So is it still a worthwhile club function on another level? I'm just posing the question. I'm not really asking for an answer, but since that's selling is the topic of this discussion, that's why I posed the question to everybody here today.
Okay. What else? Does anybody else have anything they'd like to ask or contribute?
Well, I have a little bit of a story, but like Bruce and a couple other people have said, they don't sell anything. I haven't sold a single thing except for what I mentioned before. What I have donated to empty bowls, farmers market that benefits the club, and stocking stuffer. I've donated stuff there, and it sells, but I myself did not receive any compensation for that. But I have one bowl here that I turned, and this is nothing special. It's a maple bowl, and it has some pretty good figuring and chatoyance to it. I don't know if you can see it in there, but and it's pretty basic. But I took this, I finished it, and I brought it into the house, and I showed it to my wife, and and I said, I'm gonna donate this to Empty Bowls. And she looked at it, and she did, and I can see the figuring and everything here, but she looked at it and she went like, but I like this. I want to keep this, so I took it back out to the workshop and signed it. I don't know if you can see that, but to Michelle Love Mark, and then handed it to her and said, okay, now I can never sell it because it's yours. It's got your name on it. So I think maybe like Larry alluded to it, but there's probably a point of saturation that you get after you've got so many bowls and turned items that maybe, okay, we want to get rid of some of this stuff. So, but I'm not there yet. So again, I haven't sold anything. Maybe I will. So just wanted to tell that story.
Mark, let's hope we don't see it at Goodwill for $2 next week.
Yeah, with her
along
name on it.
Along those same lines, I made this tortilla holder, this tortilla thing for my wife. And when I told her, I was like, hey, how do you like this thing? She says, wow, that thing's really neat. She goes, but we don't ever eat tortillas. Now what do I?
Well, I know there's,
Anybody eat tortillas?
I know there's a
60
couple of,
bucks.
I know there's a couple of families in wood turning that the guys will turn something, bring it up. The wife says, oh, I like that. And so it goes in the shelf and you got to wait for a while. And then pretty soon it gets kind of full and said, okay, let them go through and pick off what is okay to move on someplace else. But some of it, nah, it's too nice. We're going to hold on to that for a while yet. So.
Well, I have done
Yeah,
a couple of
for me,
pieces that I really hated to sell, but because I liked them so much, but getting rid of excess pieces around that I collected over time was one reason to sell. The other reason for me is that I have so many more pieces I want to make, so many ideas and designs I have in my head that I want to get rid of. I mean, I want to move some out so I have space and time and what have you to make more. And selling pieces, like Larry and I both said, lets me go buy more wood to do it. And what's more fun than go buying a bunch of exotic woods? For me, that's a lot of pleasure, especially when somebody else paid for it.
Dave, with regard to your tortilla seller, bring it down Saturday. Dean set up a part of the sale tables now just for people who may have one or two items, don't really want to take up a whole table. It's for situations like this, bring it, show it, it might sell. Dean, am I
Okay.
correct in the assessment for the purpose for that
I think
particular part of
everybody
the table?
pay for a spot, right?
Too late. All the spaces.
Too
are
late.
taken,
Yeah, everybody had to pay for a spot, right?
especially for David.
Thanks, Dean.
How's your better half, David? Okay, better today?
Yeah, she's a hot mess, I tell you. That gal hadn't been sick a day in her life, and then she gets shingles on Sunday.
Oh.
And I mean, knocked her for a loop. And then she hit her toe on a rocking chair that's been there for 2 years and nobody's hit it. And her little toes like this. And so yeah, she's probably got to go for x-rays and all that stuff here pretty soon. But she's doing better. She's doing better. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, tell her we're all thinking of her. It's
Yeah.
kind
Right on.
of funny, kind of odd that about 1/3 of the discussion that happens in this wood turning club is which doctor did you see today and what hurts you tomorrow, and I don't know.
That's because all of us are at that time in our life.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's for sure.
it's all paid
Well, I
off.
got to tell you a little story because it's kind of ironic. I had hit my little toe on that rocking chair 2 days before. And like I
Right.
said, that thing sat there for 2 years. And when I hit my toe, she laughed her ass off. And then when she hit her toe, I was like, no sympathy. Nope, nope, nope. You laughed at me.
Well, what are
And
you two,
but then I looked at her toe and it was like that. I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I bet that hurts.
what are you two doing chasing one another around the rocking chair? Jeez.
Well, you know, you get our age, you can't run too far.
What you do in your own time is your own thing, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to share on the topic?
My
Yeah.
first chips and grits, good times.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll
Mine
look forward to
too.
seeing you
Yeah.
back next time.
I learned a lot. Took a lot of notes.
Glad you did.
Thanks, fellas.
hey, see everybody
That's it.
later.
We will sign off. Thank you one and
Yeah.
all.